Okay, we have Speedy D and Trac2. Some legendary Bronx B-boys.
Oh,
and
no. Please do me a favor. Legendary is somebody who passed away. Pioneers.
You're absolutely right. Pioneers.
Yes.
And we were going to, discuss some variables about their, their background and everything. Yeah, we're going to, proceed from there. So, starting with you, Trac. For context, people already know the variables of your backgrounds and the shared history that you guys have. So we're not even going to go with that. We're going to proceed to some other context things. Some things that people may not know and all of those things. So we're going to ask some questions about your crew, Starchild of Rock. As you've stated, in the past, that Starchild of Rock was a democracy. There was no one like president of the crew.
Yeah,
Which, you guys were like the first guys, to do like a non-president. Non-president, yes. How did that translate? When it came time, for you guys to agree on things and all that stuff. It was like a vote thing that had to be unanimous, or is it majority rules?
No, it's unanimous. It has to be unanimous. And then whoever disagrees, then they had the right to just speak on why. But then during the conversation, they understood the bigger picture of why. Then now I get it.
Yeah.
So you got one person that's kind of stubborn and want to change something, but then when we speak about it and understanding what you're a part of, they go, yeah, it's not about me, it's about us.
Yeah.
And that's when it changes. Now everybody's focused on the bigger picture. And that's what it's all about. It was all about that. If it wasn't unanimous, it doesn't pass. We can't do it. But when you speak, and because certain people have their own point of view, maybe they want to put out. But then that's selfish. Because we're crew. So the idea of somebody saying something that's selfish, but then when we break it down as what it really is, there's no one person is bigger than the crew.
So you move as a union.
And there you go. And then that name in one of our abandoned buildings.
I just want to say real quick that it also applies to being a member of a group and something is being offered to one individual.
Mm-hmm.
The rule of the game is if we can't go, if my crew can't go or be in a video or something, nobody goes.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
No one is bigger.
Yeah.
No one's bigger.
Okay. I want to, stay on, some variables about the history of your crew. Could you state, the members that were in Starchild?
Well, in Starchild of Rock, everything stems from the blackout. It stems from the blackout.
No, but
The
what,
members of
but,
the
but,
group.
Oh, the members.
Yeah, yes, the
All
members.
right.
Yeah.
My teachers were Boz, right? Blue Eyes, Peabody 170, me, and there's one more. Peabody 170, me, Peabody. There's one more. Mongo Rock.
Okay.
Then Mongo Rock.
So
The greatest. He's the Kenny of our generation.
So when they say, Mongo was a guy who was one of the first guys who mastered like combinations.
Yes, he is the king of combination.
Okay.
So,
and what
you
kind of
wanna-
combinations would that be?
It's hard to tell, you understand, or describe it,
Yeah.
because the moment is self-expressed.
So he just had so much variation.
Yes.
Like he could pull out whatever. So
And-
you're so spontaneous.
Yes,
That's
yes.
dope.
So when we say king and combination, when you take one move and then, you add another move,
Yeah.
and then you add another move, to create one.
He was constantly in creation.
He was the master of it.
Wow.
JoJo created the first backspin. He created the second backspin.
Yep.
But his backspin, you could just get out of it.
Yeah.
You know, some backspin you gotta wait for it to stop in order for you to get up and do it again. But his backspin allowed him to go from the backspin back into his footwork.
So he could use it as a transition.
Exactly.
Combo. Yeah.
Exactly. And at that time, it didn't exist.
Yeah.
He transcended. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He made something that you could just continue to do more.
He's part of the piece of the puzzle that extended, you know, what came into, you know, the 80s and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I could do that. So we're gonna go.
So would you say that his backspin was the one that kind of like elevated to? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he was
See,
more.
the difference with JoJo's backspin, he would do a half a backspin and then his butt be up. He would do a backspin and then let his butt be up. He didn't do that. He made sure it wasn't on there. He would start from the shoulder, but everything was in the middle.
So like in the so because I've seen quite a few people like I can't think of the names, but pretty much. So you got some people that find their point in the mid part of their back. But you're saying his was
shoulder.
up here in the blades.
Yes, it's more up towards the shoulder aspect of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so all right, so then you know what? I'm getting this conclusion based off of what you're saying. So would you say he's like one of the founding fathers of neck moves, or a great creator in neck moves?
I can't say that because that terminology don't exist. You understand? You can't take something that maybe the 90s or ladies call a neck move. There is no such thing as a neck move. It looks like it, but it isn't.
Yeah.
But it isn't. Again, like I used to
So
tell.
for clarification,
Exactly.
we're going to state it as the second version of the backspin.
Yes.
So that's, you know, we don't. need
And
to go any
then
further.
legs has the third version.
Yes.
Then you have, what's his name, man? He was from Dynamic Breakers. Airborne.
Airborne.
Airborne got the next one.
Yeah.
So you want to
A
know?
lot of people miss that part.
Exactly.
But you know, Airborne, you
Was
know,
nasty.
Yeah. A lot of
When
people
you
don't
say
really,
continuous backspin
Yeah.
with no hands,
Yeah.
it was airborne.
Yeah.
So they go the evolution of backspin as we know it today.
Okay.
And you could tell when you see it, you could see the generation changing from what it was to what became a standard to how it evolved to today's standard.
Yeah.
Because if you don't got no foundation, how can you show an evolution?
That's true.
Now that's the question you should ask anybody. What is the foundation of this? What part do you play in it? If you cannot show an evolution, that means you was here today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
How can you say that you influenced this generation when your own history denies that?
Yeah.
I don't have to bring it to you, but I can give you the facts for it. And the reason I can say that is because I was there. Nobody told me this. I literally seen
You
this.
see it with your own eyes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're gonna jump back and forth to certain things. So I want to jump over to two factors. How did the relationship between you and Speedy introduce itself, and then also the narrative of the crew that you guys were in? What was the length of that, and how did that evolve or come about?
Well, at that time when me and Speedy came together, it was more of the boogie aspect of the dance at that time.
Okay.
That brought us together. We went to a place called the Pharaohs, right? And
You went.
who?
You went to Pharaoh's.
Yeah, we went. No, what was that place?
Pharaoh's on Burnside.
On Burnside.
You went, and then I went.
Yeah. And what happened was when I opened up the door, it was Mr. Freeze there doing this shit.
Yeah.
But people fail to understand because I find out the history later on. His teacher was a guy named Eric. My old lady who I'm with now, is her son. He taught and bit everything from Eric Hernandez. Everything he did, got it from him. So when I found that out and I brought it to him, I said, yo, who was your teacher? And don't fuck with me because I know the truth now. And they all went to the same high school.
Oh, wow.
You know, they all went to the same high school, right? And bingo, where you get your move from? Oh, you know, I did this. No, tell me the truth. Where you get the move? I just found out who the fucking guy done it. And that's when he had to press up. Who was your fucking teacher? It was Eric Hernandez. Mind you, that guy, who he is, his daughter, his sister is my old lady now.
Oh, wow.
And he said it all. He said it all.
But they weren't talking about Freeze. They're talking about me and you.
Yeah, all right. But you got to remember, if it ain't him, he's a part of what Freeze is. Or
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about he's asking you about our relationship, not Freeze's.
Hold on, what evolution we talk about?
No.
Relationship?
All right. So let me say again. There is, some people outside a certain demographic within the context of the history may not understand that you guys share a distinctive history together in a crew that you guys were in.
New York City, United States Breakers, basically.
Yes.
Talking about us.
So,
me-
and how did you
Barrow
guys
was the one that
how
brought us
did
together.
how did you guys interact? Because I remember speaking with Speedy, a while back, the day before the Hall of Fame, and he was telling me, some historical stuff. I knew some of it, but he gave me more context with that. So I don't know why I didn't get a chance to, but I was wondering, there's pictures and all that stuff, and what you said, and I always wonder, how did you guys, come about, how did you guys interact and then start, doing things together, in dance.
I want to see if you went. Go ahead, Trac.
As far as the dance,
No.
He's so mean. He's so mean.
Trac.
hold it up.
How did we meet and how did we hook
We
up
met
as friends?
in a place
Yeah.
called Pharaoh's,
Okay.
right? I think near Burnside.
On Burnside.
On Burnside,
Yeah.
right before the Grand Concourse.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's how I met him.
Okay.
What was I doing?
He was boogieing.
Okay.
He was a boogie.
And what happened after when you saw me boogieing?
When I seen you boogieing,
Yes.
that was the name of the dance at that time.
Electric Boogie.
Electric Boogie. He influenced me more to that. He was my teacher when it came to that.
Oh, okay.
Literally. When it says when Boogie is, he introduced me to that.
Yeah.
That's just a fact. In Pharaoh's.
Yeah.
When we broke night, went to the train station, almost got arrested.
So
And
let me.
what year would you say this is?
That was in 80, late 81 going into early 82. So let me explain to you in that perspective, because I always remember certain things like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And for me, it was, I started boogieing in junior high school. Well, I wasn't even a boogie, but it took me about a year to develop the style, being taught and biting other people's style within the neighborhood and friends from school. I finally went to my first club. My sisters, they were considered hustlers. They were part of a crew called the Hustling Crew on Aqueduct Park. And they finally took me to a club up the street, the block. And my sister took me there. She says, "Go ahead and show your stuff. This is where people dance, And it was a place called Pharaoh's. So I went in there with my white little gloves, doing when the time came to do my little, go off, I happened to see him up against the wall, but I didn't know who he was. Until, after that little freestyle session that I did, he came up to me and said, "Yo, I'm Trac2." And I said, "I'm Speedy." And then we started hooking up. And then I kind of knew somewhat of breaking, but I didn't know the breaking community. in a sense, because I was just coming out. I was new. I came from upstate New York. I moved to New York. I started just, again, it's like 12, 13 years old.
So at that time, did you know who Trac
No,
was?
at all. I didn't even know. I know I seen guys breaking on my block as I went to the store, but never knew, at that time what it was. However, I started, I got into a group in my neighborhood called the 3D Crew.
Yes.
This guy, E.T. and Kenny.
Yes.
And they, we started practicing and so forth and so on. And at that time, when I did go to Pharaoh's, I was already part of a group, beginning a group. We used to dance for African Islam. I didn't know who African Islam was at the time until the whole Sonic Force and all that stuff. So I was being educated in that aspect coming up. But the moment I met him and he told me about breaking, I remember seeing some breakers and whatever. So he took me under the wing. So we connected, and it's the first person I met in the game that kind of sort of, have knowledge of the scene.
Yeah.
So when he took me under the wing, he's like, yo, I'm going to introduce you to everybody, Spy, this, that, Pee-wee. Pee-wee lived on my block.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things, he introduced me to Pee-wee. We just started collaborating, and we've never been apart for the last, when we first met, we had a good 12-year run after that.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to all the original members of TBB, Rockwell Association. We started going to jams together. We started to Polk Park. He just did. And then, kind of like
basement.
Yeah. So, he was well known, and I didn't know that. Then
you started to realize who you were hanging with.
Right. So my status of my dance kind of started flourishing from that. And he would take me places, bring me to the Rocksteady basement with Flex, the battle guys. It was always battling here. Taking me, baby. He took me to 118.
They used to have rubber band and you put an ass whipping on them.
Yeah. That was the down yonder road skin.
Yes.
When I battled Freeze that day, finally, after years later.
Yes.
So we kind of connected in a sense where we became brothers. I would sleep in his house. His moms would feed me. We'd go after work. And, the whole 83, 82, 84 and all that happened with Beach Street. Just to get to that photograph, after the 3D group, we kind of separated. I started doing shows with, became the boogie boy for Floor Masters before they became the New York City Breakers. And then from there, they became the New York City Breakers. They took me on the audition for Beach Street and all that, which...
And what year around?
Right before, Beach Street was 84?
Yeah, it was
84?
So
83, 84?
Yeah.
83 film,
Yeah,
84
filmed. Right, so it was in
was
83.
Released.
So forth and so on. I mean, I was just practicing so hard. I was getting better in time, over time. And I was dissed from the movie Beach Street, so therefore I just decided that, I told Trac, yo, this was happening. They replaced me with Mr. Wave, so forth, and he was like, fuck that, we'll make our own group. So I found another brother, old school brother from the original Floor Master, his name is Spirit. And I told Trac, hey, Spirit breaks, he's got dope windmills. He said, fuck that, we're gonna call ourselves the United States Breakers. I said, you know what? Bigger than New York City Breakers, we'll show them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a guy named Arthur Sanders.
Yeah, so we got a manager, we got an agent, Because Spirit was here today.
Yeah, I was about to say, we were talking to London a few days ago before all of this. I think like Wednesday. He was like, Spirit's gonna be there, and then the whole night. So I was like, oh wow, that's dope.
He's original. His windmills was like chinos.
Wow.
Maybe a little better.
It bugs me out because we used to take the ferry, and because Arthur he was like a.
Did you guys get to see the picture of the United States Breakers?
Yeah.
Yes.
You took pictures?
Yeah, he brought it in with the frame.
I made him bring that in.
Yeah.
Because